Ahoy Minnetonka, I'm David Law, Superintendent of Minnetonka Schools. Thank you for joining us for this episode of our district podcast, Ahoy Minnetonka. The new school year is off to a strong start, and we have an important year ahead of us. Today, we're talking with two of our school board members about where we are and where we're going. I think it's helpful for our listeners to get a glimpse from behind the scenes of how the school board is involved in the governance of the district and supportive of our operational efforts. We'll discuss the school board goals for the district and the strides we're making in support of those goals, the long-term planning process, and efforts for our Minnetonka schools and our financial outlook. Joining me here are School Board Chair Meghan Selinger and School Board Treasurer Dan Olson. Thank you both for being here. Let's start by, please tell us a little bit about who you are and your connection to the Minnetonka School District.
I'm Meghan Selinger. I am the current school board chair. I'm in my third year on the school board, and I also have two kids in the district. I have a third grader and a seventh grader this year, two boys.
What's been your involvement with the district prior to the school board?
Lots of sports. So both my kids are in multiple sports, both through community ed and through some of the associated organizations in the district. And I've done some volunteer work with that. And I did homebound instruction for the district for a few years and was a reserve teacher for a while.
Thank you for both those things too. Dan, how about you? What's your connection to the district?
Also live in the district, parent of two boys. Dan, I'm the school board treasurer. So two boys at MMW. We've lived in Minnetonka for 7 years now, probably. Moved here for the schools. So it's been really awesome, like growing into this community.
Something, over the last 5 years, these are the least likely times a member of the public might consider running for this school board. If you look at some of the challenges through the pandemic and just some of the issues we've had societally, what prompted each of you to run for the school board?
Well, I think for me, I'd been, as a parent, like unlike Meghan, having my kids in sports and having that sort of connection to the district, I'd kind of been on autopilot for a long time. And then I started just getting a little frustrated with some things within the district. And I met a lot of other parents who shared my frustrations and who were looking to maybe make a little bit of change and get more involved. And I think it's just through building those relationships with other parents and other folks in the community that, realized I was, willing to do this. And it'd be nice to, pitch in and help out if people thought that was something I could
Awesome.
be good at.
Megan?
When I ran, I had little ones. Mine were, in elementary school still, and it was kind of just thinking about their future and how great the Minnetonka school system had been, and making sure that I wanted to have it continue being amazing for the duration of their time in the district and their friends and our neighbors. And I thought I could bring a little bit of a unique voice to the school board, as I was a full-time high school teacher for 12 years. And so I thought that I could just bring a kind of a different lens to some of the school board conversations, because I think that part of excellence is being self-reflective, and as a district looking at all the things we're doing well, but also what are the things we can do better, and how can we make these schools even better for our kids?
Well, and thank you both for giving up your time. One of the things that our listeners probably don't have a great understanding of is, like, what does a school board member do? I get it all the time as a superintendent, but what do board members do between meetings or throughout the year?
I can speak starting as the board chair that we really just have you as our employee. So we do not do any of the day-to-day management of any of the schools. When something arises in a school, it's the school administration, the district administration that handle it. So we do the governance piece of it, and we help set the goals for the district that kind of guide your work and the work in the buildings. And as the chair, I help determine what's going to be on the school board meeting agendas and respond to community members that might email or reach out. Spend a lot of time reading through the board packets and the emails that we get from you every week so that we know what's going on in the district. But I would say that's kind of the bulk of the time.
Dan, anything to add as a first-year board member?
Well, I think to me, the job is kind of just to listen a lot. I mean, yes, we do the meetings. We usually meet twice a month. We have committees that we attend outside of those meetings so we can stay on top of finance or SPED or the Association of Metro School Districts or what have you. But really, like we're in this sort of position where we occupy this space between the community and the institution of Minnetonka Public Schools. And I really just, we do have to vote, we do have to make decisions, but the job, in my opinion, isn't to go in there with an opinion or an agenda. It's to be a set of ears, like listening to the needs of the community and then listening to the needs of you and your administration and the teachers and kids in your building so that we can pull all of that information together and respond in the best way possible.
I would also just add too that we are a governing body. So as each individual board member, we don't have any power. We only have power as a unit. And so if we are going to make a decision, it can't be Meghan wants to have sushi every Friday in the school cafeteria, and then she's going to do it because I don't have that power. So I would have to convince everybody that was a good budgetary idea. And
I am a sushi fan. I'm not sure.
I'm also a sushi fan, but I don't know if it's good for the budget.
Great.
But we would have to have a majority vote to make something like that happen. So
I think one thing we try to do is, like you alluded to how it's maybe more difficult to run for office and participate in roles like this these days than maybe it used to be. And I think, like, I know I probably speak for Meghan and speak for all the folks on the board, like we pride ourselves in being a bunch of grown-ups and adults who are there to do the job and compromise and listen and just help make sure that you and Minnetonka Schools have what you need.
Well, one of the things you've referenced, and I think it's been, since I've been here in this my third year, a priority to listen to and engage with the community. What are some of the ways that this board gathers feedback from the community that come to mind?
Well, the obvious is we do the surveys. So everybody out there has received surveys in their email inbox, and believe it or not, we read every single comment that comes through in those surveys.
Sometimes 80 pages worth.
Correct. Yep. We do get, phone calls and emails from the community. We are really trying to be more transparent about a lot of what we're doing. So, like, we started live streaming these study sessions in the interest of just having people able to be involved and have it be accessible for folks who can't come to the meetings to have a way to be informed in another way.
And, we've gone to the middle schools, gone to the high schools, done listening sessions with some of the kids in each of the buildings. This year we're trying to double down on that and spend even more time with the kids in the high schools. Set up some more community listening events throughout the fall as we build through what the budget's going to look like for the next fiscal year. So I think it's just, if someone reaches out to me, I'll take a meeting or go have a coffee whenever somebody needs to, if they need to bend an ear or have something they need to discuss. It's just about being present, and then, if someone lets us know, like, hey, there's, here's an idea of how you could reach people that maybe you're not doing yet, just being open to suggestions. Because I'm sure we're not doing it perfectly, and there's more we want to do, and we want to create as many of those opportunities as possible.
I think the cool thing about our board too is that so many of us have feelers out in different parts of the community for those very informal conversations, whether it's sports or theater or the place of employment. I think once you're on the board for a little bit, people know that, and they will approach you and kind of just bring something up really informally, and it's a really great way to connect, I think, with community members in a less structured or less formal feeling way.
Well, I want to transition a little bit. You hinted at this earlier, but one of the things that we do to build community trust and to measure progress is set goals. What is the goal setting process? How does it involve community input? How do community members know about it?
I've only been in this role for half of a school year right now. So this school year, this fall, is the first time I'm going to be able to engage in the full process. So I've been on the back end of this, where the board has sort of drafted a preliminary set of goals, and then throughout the spring semester we spend a bunch of time just meeting and talking them over with around the board table, in a study session, in a formal session, and hearing from the community about how we could change them too. But Megan, you can probably speak to like the genesis of the goals better than I can.
The interesting thing about goals is they're never finished, right? So they are always kind of ever evolving. And so I would say one thing is that we don't organically create new goals every single year. We start with what we have, and we use feedback that we get from folks in the community and staff members and all that to look at maybe there are things we need to add, or maybe there are measurables we need to change. An example I can think of is we were hearing a lot about nutrition services for a few years, and as a result we put that into the goals very explicitly, and now we have a nutrition advisory council of parents working with the nutrition department. So I would say that it's kind of cool in that way, in that it's like a living, working document that we take the feedback. Last fall, we got a lot of feedback that the previous goals were a little confusing, and so we spent some time just making them easier to digest. And I think that timing has shifted also. That when you came in, we really moved to try to have the goals adopted earlier, so that over the summer that teachers and administrators could be working on implementing the goals for the next year, rather than getting them mid-year and already being in the school year and having to kind of adjust on the fly.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm like, my takeaway from everything you just said is, again, the board like as a listening body for the community, because it sounds like a lot of what you were talking about and what got funneled into this year's goals came from the community and community needs and everything like that. So really, it's the folks watching, the students, the parents, setting those goals for us, letting us know what our direction should be as a district, and then we just get to crystallize it down.
Our goals have reflected what we've consistently heard from the community in terms of student mental health, student wellness, literacy, academic excellence, meeting the needs of every learner, long-term financial stability. One of the other goals that I'm going to lead into is facilities. You know, they came up my first year. The second year we committed to start studying them, and here we are. There's something called a facility task force. I know board members aren't part of that because we want it to be community driven. What is a facility task force, and what role will it play with the board?
Well, I think it kind of started at looking at the long-term facilities, but then when we started looking more at the middle school programming, that was also something that kind of came up during that process, that maybe some of our facilities weren't quite meeting the needs that we need them to going forward. And so we talked about how to look at that kind of holistically and with the budget and with all of the constraints that we have. So the Facilities Task Force has district leadership, it has community members, and they've been going out to each of the different facilities, buildings in our school district, and looking very closely at what is in each building currently and what it may need going forward, to try to kind of think about that anticipatory piece, making sure that the buildings are ready for the next 20 years and that they meet the needs of our students.
So that will come back to the board probably in November as a recommendation, and the board will have 6 or 8 months to consider what to do with that. So there'll be a chance for the board to hear the recommendation and then again grab community feedback through that process. Shifting gears to the other long-term plan. Financial stability. Public education around the state has struggled to keep up with the rising cost of labor, rising cost of utilities. We have a board goal for long-term financial stability. One of the things that we've been hearing, 2 questions I've heard from the public: why didn't you see this coming, and what can we do about it? Do either one of you want to talk about, did we see this coming?
We saw this coming. I think if you talk with any of us, you talk with Executive Director of Finance, Paul Bourgeois, we'll let you know that we saw this coming. We've got, I think the Association of Metropolitan School Districts sent out like their election guide over the weekend or this morning, and it goes into the budgetary issues that we've been seeing coming for nearly a decade. Like you alluded to it, funding from the state on a per pupil level just doesn't keep up with inflation or costs. The sped cross subsidy isn't there, and one of the things that we've been fortunate enough to do as a community in Minnetonka is ask our community to kick in some of those resources via property taxes to help us fund the programs and maintain this level of excellence. And we've just hit the ceiling on our capacity to be able to ask the community for more. And so now we're in a place, and we're not alone. I think nearly every district in the metro is facing the same sort of financial crunch that we are. Is we really need our legislators and our state government to double down on fully funding public education.
And I would add that, as Dan alluded to, we can't really increase revenue. Like, we don't have another source for bringing in money. And so it forces us into a position of deficit spending and looking at our budget and where we can make, shifts and changes and try to prioritize keeping it out of the classroom as much as possible. But I think one of the other things that not everybody understands about school finance is that we can't just take money from one place and put it another, because there's discrete categories that we have to stick to. And the vast majority of our budget is people, which is a good thing. I mean, that's the people that are working with the kids. So it just makes it difficult to think about if we're looking at having to actually make some budget cuts, doing that in a really strategic and responsible way to keep it as much as we can away from the classroom and from our kids.
And I know, David, you and Paul and everyone in the administration has been approaching these cuts in a sensitive and as a humane way as possible. And I think, there's no way to get around like how big some of these cuts might feel to some people, but we've got a really dedicated, community finance committee looking at these problems and meeting on a regular basis. And I would just say that I know we've heard from a lot of parents about class sizes and things like that. We want to continue hearing from parents to see not only if there's anything they're noticing that's become tougher because of it, but also if they have any ideas, because we're here to do whatever we can to balance that budget in a responsible way, but also just make it as least painful for the kids and the teachers as possible.
Right.
And hope that going forward we can bring in more revenue. And I think that that's something that people in the community need to know, is that the best way to try to do that is to reach out to legislators. We have the case committee that will begin meeting here pretty soon that goes and works on trying to work with the representatives, because they're the ones that would have to push something through.
Yeah, we maintain, and David maintains a good relationship with all of our representatives and legislators, but the thing we consistently hear is that what's really meaningful is when they hear from parents.
Absolutely.
In their community.
So we will be ramping up our case committee, which is an advisory committee that works with legislation to let them know they want to make sure there's an investment in their children. Well, as we're getting close to the end, what's your favorite part of being a board member? What gives you energy to come back and keep doing this? Either one of you.
For me, I think it's just, I kind of found my community and people and home in Minnetonka through doing this, through knocking on people's doors and meeting a bunch of people that I would have never otherwise met. And I don't know, it's a really fulfilling, fantastic way to do some work and spend some time and give back to the institution that's providing my kids with such a great education, and that we want to just keep building it. And like Meghan said, make sure that those opportunities are there for kids for the next 2-3 generations.
I think my favorite part is still when I get into the buildings. I was a full-time teacher, and while I don't miss the grading and all that was associated with it, I really do miss being in schools on a regular basis, because there's such energy, and it's really cool seeing all the just amazing things that our kids do. I mean, they have crazy opportunities, yes, but they also produce just this amazing body of work at every level, and it's just so fun to get in there and see how the teachers interact with the kids and how the administrators do, and it just has a great vibe all around. Like, when you get into a building, it's just a very positive feeling, and I really enjoy it.
The kids, the teachers, they never fail to impress me. I don't know about you folks, but when I was 16, 18, I do not feel like I had myself together the way these kids do. They're awesome.
It is, and it is so fun to see kids when their spark is lit. Just having a great time. Well, I want to thank both of you for giving your time to the school board, giving your time to the community and our school system, but also giving time for this podcast of Ahoy Minnetonka. And I want to thank you for joining us for this school board episode of Ahoy Minnetonka. We'll have more episodes to come, and we'll see you around.